Hi everyone, welcome to the TIPCO Analytics Forum and today's breakout session about convenient Python functions for everyone. I'm Thomas Blomberg, I'm Senior Product Manager for TIPCO Spotfire, and with me today I have Vaibhav Kediyeri from the TIPCO Data Science team. Maybe you would like to say a few words about yourself, Vaibhav?
Sure. Hello everyone. Welcome to TAF, first of all. So today I think we'll be showing a convenient way to work with Python inside Spotfire, and looking forward to this session. So Thomas, kick it off,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
we could looking forward to sharing some exciting um, developments in this area.
That's right. First of all, we have a disclaimer. We will share a lot of existing functionality, but we will also talk about the future and what our direction is. To keep that in mind that later on you will hear a few statements about our future direction. At TIPCO, we work in 3 pillars: connect, unify, and predict, and we call those 3 connected intelligence. And that really unlocks the value of real-time data so that you can create strategic competitive assets for smarter and faster decision-making by combining these 3. The agenda for today is to, first of all, be inspired by Vaibhav's great demos of innovative Python data function capabilities. We will learn through these demos some best practices and how you can work with Spotfire 11 and how Spotfire 11 makes it easier for everyone to use data functions. I mean, Vaibhav is a data scientist, so this is very natural for him, but for me and many other Spotfire users, advanced analytics and data science could be seen as quite complex, but today we will show you how you can use these amazing capabilities as well. And then we will also see what's around the corner and what's next in the Spotfire data science area. So just a reminder, if you're new to Spotfire and Spotfire data functions, it really provides an interface between visual analytics and data science. You can create advanced data science, put it in a data function, and then share it with the Spotfire community and all the users, and make it really easy and a natural part of your analysis files and dashboards and whatnot you create in Spotfire, but still you have that tremendous power of data science underneath without really needing to know the nitty-gritty details of how it works and how the data science is put together. And with that, let's sit back, be inspired by Vaibhav's great demos here, and really see and learn what you could do and what you could use as well. So with that, over to you, Vaibhav.
Thank you so much, Thomas. If I may, could I share my screen?
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. So I think before we talk about how we could work with Python inside Spotfire, I'd like to take a few steps back and talk about how the data scientists or analysts or engineers work with Python outside the Spotfire environment. As you can see here, this is an example that I've written out. This basically is inside a Jupyter notebook, something that everyone in the data science is very familiar with. And you can see here, I'm doing a very simple thing. I'm just reading in some data, and I am trying to compute some correlation between the columns that exist in the data, often a part that we do before we jump into building a machine learning model. So as you can see here that I'm using some inbuilt libraries inside Python, which is matplotlib here. And you can see here, I'm able to visualize the correlation. I'm also able to visualize this correlation by a different method. So the first one here, this is by the Pearson method. And the second one here is by Kendall. So one of the things when it comes to doing analysis in Jupyter is the scalability becomes an issue. And if I were to pass this code on to someone else in my team, they would need to make sure they have the data set, the path, and also they would probably have to change a few things in the code in order to get these visuals. So let's quickly move into how we could achieve the same inside Spotfire. Now, on the left, you could see here is something that I just showed you. That was a code in Jupyter Notebook, and on the right is the script editor inside Spotfire data functions. So as you can see that the code is essentially the same. So there is very minimal effort required in actually wiring up your Python code inside Spotfire. It's literally as easy as just copying your code and pasting it in the editor, and maybe just adding a few parameters. So the input and output parameters here basically act as the the function parameters inside your original code. So for example, here you're passing the method as Pearson, but every single time you might have to change it. So here you could just pass that in as a parameter, which can be dynamically computed on the fly. So now we'll go into a small demo and talk about how we could use Python inside Spotfire. So here, basically, I have an example where we are trying to analyze some plant data. So using Spotfire's drill down capability, you could just go and select the segment. And now immediately we see a profile that emerges. We could see that around this time, the pressure was very, very high. And you could see some certain other things like the power in was very low. Now, we'll quickly move into the correlation analysis, and this is something that I showed in the in the Jupyter Notebook. You could see essentially we have pretty much the same heat map, but on top of that, we've added another mod. This is the network mod again, which is available for download through TIBCO Exchange. And you can see here, as how I said, you could configure the method as a dynamic input. So in this case, you could just select Pearson. The one other thing that really elevates this experience is the ability to filter. So we could also filter by the correlation score. So if you're interested in looking at some high correlation areas, so we could check that, and immediately this shows a really important result right here. So you can see that the production is closely tied with the gas levels. You can also infer that all of the 6 sensors here are correlated. So maybe you do not need all the 6 sensors moving. When we go into building the model, we could just use either one of them.
This seems very far from the Jupyter Notebook you started your demo with. This is great. Is it a lot of work going from kind of the Jupyter Notebook side to this experience, which feels so much richer and more interactive?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Thomas. And as I mentioned before, there's absolutely very minimal effort required in moving your code into Spotfire. It's really as simple as just copying the code, and you could go here in data functions, and as you can see here, I've essentially just copied the code and just put it into the script editor, put in the input and output parameters, and you are good to go. And now you can actually interact with this data, drill this data down to get a more elevated experience and more dynamic visuals on the fly.
And it's so cool to see that you are using both data functions and Python in combination with visualization mods for this particular use case. That's awesome.
Right. So as you can see here, now we've moved to the next stage, and we want to now build a model and further analyze how we could simulate the production to get better yield. So at the top here, we could see that we've gone ahead and built a simple random forest model. So random forest is a machine learning technique. In this case, we want to predict the production, and you could select your model input. So we start off maybe with just the pressure and the gas level. And there are a few hyperparameters that you could tune. And if you go ahead and build the model, you could see that we get a pretty good model with an R-square value of close to 0.93. At this stage, we could even go and add in more inputs into our model. So let's maybe go ahead and try adding in the SR and power in to see how it affects the model. And again, this is all powered by the Python data functions in the backend. And you could see that right away by adding in the SR and power in, the model just got a little better. It just went from 0.93 to 0.98. So just to summarize real quick, we went from analyzing this time series data, doing some exploratory analysis of identifying some initial profiles and hypotheses, doing some column correlation, and then finally we built a model which predicts the yield or the production per minute in this case, and we ended up with simulating on how we can better this yield by changing few values in our sensors.
So Vaibhav, you wrote the script yourself, and you're using it sort of inside Spotfire in that data function. Would you be able to use existing functions provided by cloud vendors, for example, to do the same without writing the logic yourself?
Yep, that's a very good question, Thomas. And I think I can quickly segue into how we could extend machine learning capabilities inside Spotfire by even calling out to cloud services. So for example, let me give an example here. So here's an example of an Airbnb review data. So and this could be very helpful for analyzing reviews for the user, the customer, or for any of the teams inside Airbnb itself. So we could see a very quick example here. We have some review data with us, and then we have a few other predictors in the data. And here we're going to be showing you how we can call out to cloud services to extend machine learning capabilities inside Spotfire. So on the left here, we just have a map, and this is of Edinburgh. We could see all the listings on this map. So let's go ahead and click on one of the listings. So let's say if you're interested in this listing, and right away you could see that Azure has gone ahead and used a bunch of cognitive services on top. So we're using the sentiment analysis. We're also using the key phrase extraction and the language understanding here to do a bunch of things.
It really does. Thank you so much, Bye for an awesome demo. Really cool capabilities.
Thank you, Thomas.
And yeah, we have really been inspired. And the key takeaways from the demo is really the seamless integration of Python from using those Jupyter notebooks to the full-fledged Spotfire experience you get with data function. As Vaibhav said, it's not that hard to use a data function that already exists and create some really easy to use and domain-specific analysis, especially when you combine it with mods like you just did. We also saw that you could connect to, in this case, Azure, but of course also the other cloud vendors and their machine learning capabilities. And we, of course, saw the complex Python code really encapsulated in data functions and made easy. And remember, with Spotfire, it's easy to share. You just save it to the library, and then you can share it with your colleagues. And that the knowledge, the insight from the data science really is made available to everyone else in the organization. So very cool to see and very powerful. With that, I would like to have a look at what's next and a demo of how Spotfire 11.3 actually makes it even easier to start and use data functions. So Vaibhav had a really interesting random forest data function going on there. And it has already been shared through the library. So Vaibhav shared it, stored it in the library, and I went to the library and pinned it to the FX menu. So I already have the random forest function available. And you may have already seen this in Spotfire 11.3, it's brand new, where you actually can just follow a recipe, because Vaibhav has written really awesome descriptions of what the data function expects as inputs. So in this case, I can see that the df input requires a data set to be used as input to the random forest. In other words, a data table, and I only have one. So I can go to the second input, name of the column that you would like the random forest to predict. So I need to enter something like prod per minute. And then I'm done with that. So you can see it's a really intuitive, easy to use way, very, very easy to use, especially thanks to the good descriptions of each input parameter. And here we would like to use regression. The number of estimators, Vaibhav had told me that 100 is a good number to begin with, and 12 as maximum depth, and 5 as minimum sample split, and number of leaves could be 10. All right, so that's how easy it is to provide the initial input to the data function. And remember, I started from scratch. I just added my data set. I have already mapped the inputs, and these are the outputs. And this is the summary view. And this is where you can see that the predictions will go into new data table. We will also have a document property created, a second document property, and another data table. So this is all part of the data function. I don't really need to know how and why. I can just enjoy the outputs and use them in my analysis file. And with that, we're ready. We can create a scatter plot. And then we can put prediction. Move this out of the way. Prediction and production per minute. And as you can see, this is very familiar. You saw a smaller version of this in Vaibhav's demo. And with just a few steps, I have used that really advanced data science as an analyst, not knowing really how it works, but I have added it and already created the same visualizations as Vaibhav did. So very powerful. So that's new in 11.3. Around the corner, we see that we need to do or like to do more things in Python. And here's a list of what we see today. So the web-based UIs are already here. We just saw that in 11.3. We would also like to enhance the support for proxy. We have a lot of package management going on with Python. We'd like to make it easier to download packages using PIP and using proxies, internet proxies, that is. We would also like to speed up the performance when you read and write Spotfire binary data files from within your Python scripts. We would like to reduce some overhead in the execution of Python scripts. Virtual Python environments are used a lot. For example, Conda, we would like you to be able to use those. Use a certain environment with a certain data functions. You can have a link between those and easily switch between them. We would like to see Dockerized Python and R services on Windows. You should also be able to run Python on our cloud services. And last but not the least, an open source R service type. So you can use open source R in your Spotfire ecosystem more easily. We also have a new product coming up called TIBCO ModelOps, and that's a brand new product, and it's designed to really be a home for all your models and statistical functions and pipelines, scoring pipelines, for example. So you can govern everything there. You can control access. You control versions of models. You can measure performance. You can monitor how your models are performing, and that everything is up and running and working great and serving the community. All of that is part of ModelOps, and it's in our direction to have a native integration, a seamless integration, single sign-on experience between Spotfire and ModelOps. So when Vaibhav and me, when we select our data function in the flyout, you should be able to select a model in ModelOps and directly integrate that into your Spotfire experience. And ModelOps supports any type of models, Python or TensorFlow, whatever you need, you can run it and execute it as part of ModelOps. And you could compare that with Azure that we just saw, doing Airbnb reviews. It's an external engine, it's running in Azure. In this case, it could be running in ModelOps. And it also supports streaming data, so you can do real-time predictions and scoring and visualize those real-time streams in Spotfire. So really cool technology, something we're looking into for the future. I would also like to show you a function we are investigating to take this experience a step further. And that is those inputs that we just mapped. You remember we went to the FX panel and mapped inputs. What about changing anything? We saw Vaibhav's demo and text areas where you can go in and change things, but that text area has to be designed. we are looking at a prototype where we, instead of having to design that, can just go to the axis selector and have all those input parameters readily available here. So this means that if I know that this wasn't exactly what I was looking for, I want to change something, change a parameter like that. Maybe I also saw that my data function is not refreshing automatically. I forgot to select that when I added it. I can just do that here and reconfigure the parameters and enjoy a slightly different result and get to a point where I'm happy with how my data function operates. So this is a really cool feature, a prototype, and something we are really excited to be able to provide in the future release of Spotfire. So looks really promising. So we're approaching the end of this presentation. What would you say, Vaibhav? I think we could summarize a few key takeaways. I certainly remember the Jupyter notebook compared to Spotfire, and I mean, you just copy pasted the script basically into Spotfire, and you got that a whole new experience compared to the notebook. What would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think thank you, Thomas, for showing us the elevated experience of the Python data functions and the upcoming version. But I think as we went from a Jupyter notebook into the Spotfire environment, I think one of the things that we realized is the interactive nature of Spotfire, of how much you could drill down and make that available across the organization. And one of the things we have to remember is everything that you do in Spotfire is highly scalable. So I think that just makes data science more available to every personas within the organization.
Yeah, and I really didn't need to know that much about the data function that you have created. I could just simply use it. If I like it, I pin it to the FX flyout, and there it is, and I can use it in as many analysis files as I want. I can even subscribe to it, or basically I am subscribed to it. So if you make any changes and publish a new version, it will be synced and used in my analysis file. So we can make sure that we're using the version that is approved and should be used across the organization very easily.
Yep, and I think that's one of the best parts about data functions is you don't have to write the code yourself all the time. You could have a team, or you could have a team of data scientists who have written the code in the past, and you could really leverage it. And all you really have to do is just take that piece of code and just put it inside Spotfire, and Spotfire will kind of do the lifting on the back end for you. And for those. Again, for data functions that you do want to use in the future, again, you could obviously, as Thomas pointed out, you could pin them, you could put them in the library, or you could even go and check out some of the cool data functions that we have on our exchange and download some of them and just try them out. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's the thing I also wanted to say. Actually, if you like what you saw today, most things you have seen today are available for download on our exchange. You can download everything from the data functions and to the mods used in the demo.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Vaibhav, for providing so great demos, and see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for having me here. And I wish everyone to have a great TAF, and hope you enjoy all the other breakout sessions and demo pods. Thank you.
Thank you.